Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And in today's video, we are going to be continuing Neon Genesis Evangelion, the Spire's Thesis. What if Shinji was Spider-Man? Part 2. As always, if you are a fan of the channel and if you're a regular and like what we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Where we last left off with our story, we entered into the beginning of a new world. A world that blends the likes of the Japanese iteration of Spider-Man along with an anime that was actually inspired by this very Spider-Man, that being in the form of Neon Genesis Evangelion. As many of you may or may not know, the two series share a lot of similarities in the way that they are the pioneers in the mecha category of both animation as well as television, and being staples in the culture that is Japan. More specifically, Japanese Spider-Man, that was actually the pioneer in what would become the Super Sentai series, and later on that being what would be the spin-off for the Power Rangers. So there's definitely a lot of cultural clash with these groups. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Shinji had come back from another long day of training. For the most part, it was the same old routine as it had always been. For Shinji, learning how to use his powers was more so than just learning how to pilot the Evangelion, but also learning to control the spider power that he possessed. It was natural for him to overexert his power doing the simplest of things, so self-control was a must. Having super enhanced strength, speed, and reflexes, Shinji had to be careful when doing mundane tasks, lest he end up hurting himself or potentially others. Even something as simple as opening a door had to take a refined amount of control. As for a regular human, just swinging a door open, you weren't likely to take it off of its hinges. But given the super strength that Shinji now possessed, every door would now have to fend for its life, lest it were made from the best alloy possible. Of course, Shinji also had his own anxieties. Safe to say, even for the good that he had done, it still wasn't enough, at least to mend the relationship between he and his father. However, Shinji tried not to think about it too much. There wasn't really any point in doing so. Life with his new housemates, though, well, that was more interesting than anything else. Misato, even though being the adult of the household, was more like a child than either he or Penny, and while Penny emulated the, well, rather immature aspects of her guardian, they definitely did come off like sisters, Shinji would think. If Penny wasn't pulling a prank on him, then Misato was all too eager to bust his chops whenever possible. Shinji often found himself acting as the more adult-like figure of the household over the both of them. And because of his talents in cooking, he found himself being, well, the house chef. As long as he didn't have to eat that sludge Misato or Penny tried to cook, then it was a small price to pay. But even still, there were also other things on Shinji's mind. It would be whenever he was walking to or from school, where he would start to build more of a relationship with Penny and with her friends, that being in Kinsuke as well as Toji Suzuhara. Of course, though, it would come in the form of the crime that was going about in the streets. It wasn't anything too severe, but still, a robbery here, a mugging there. You would hardly ever see the police getting involved, especially in the crazy times that they lived in. But it got to a point where Shinji just couldn't ignore it any longer. It was on a regular day in particular. He wasn't really doing much of anything. School was more of a bore than anything else, so he decided to skip. As he was walking about through town, though, he saw a woman who was walking out of a store, and there were two men that pushed her to the ground, taking whatever valuables that she had before fleeing. Instinctively, Shinji went chasing after the two. Using his abilities, he caught up to them easily. They were armed with some handheld weapons, a pipe wrench, as well as a knife, although it did little to dissuade Shinji. His training and his skills made him more than a match for the two would-be criminals, and defeating them wasn't all that difficult, as he left them strung up by a web for the authorities to find, before taking what they had stolen and giving them back to the woman, who thanked him graciously. It didn't take long for Shinji's heroics to be heard by the higher-ups, and by Gendo, who would have a talk to with his son. "I heard about what you did, Shinji." "What of it?" "I must say, it is impressive how far you've managed to come with using your powers. But still, I can't advise you to do vigilante work." "Vigilante work?" "Yes. Your main focus is dealing with the angels and piloting the Eva. As for petty criminals and of the likes, you can leave that to the local authorities." "I know. I just..." "Don't concern yourself with them." "But aren't we doing this to protect them?" Without even turning, Gendo stopped at the doorway. "I just mean, piloting the Eva. We are doing it for the right reasons, aren't we?" "Now, why would you ask me such a ridiculous question? Of course you're doing it for a good reason. You're humanity's only hope. Remember that." Shinji still didn't feel all that secure in his father's answerings. Even if that's what he said, it was obvious that wasn't what he meant. And then there was his weird relationship with Rei. For some reason, he seemed to be calmer, happier when she was around, compared to him. Penny could pick up on this, and she asked her housemate how he was feeling. "Are you okay?" "It was my father. His hands, they're kind of burnt. I wonder what could have happened to him." "It happened shortly before you got here. We were doing a test with Rei and with Ava Unit 0. It kind of went berserk and she got stuck inside of her entry plug hatch. He ran to her almost immediately, before even I could get there. He grabbed the handlebars with his bare hands and pulled out the emergency exit just to get her out of there." "No way. My dad?" "Mm-hmm. He went to go and save her. But he would never..." Shinji stopped. What do you mean, Shinji?" "He would never do that for me." "Come on. I get you two don't get along, but he's your father. Of course he would." "You don't really know him then." "Not like I do." Before long, another attack would soon come, though. Shinji and Penny would be the first ones dispatched to the scene. Rei had been in the middle of testing with Ava Unit 0 once again to acclimate herself with the resynchronization. The test was put on hold as there was a disturbance in the lower district of Tokyo 3. Shinji swinging in along with Penny following in her armored spider suit. As they arrived, they saw a man that had transformed. "Who is this guy?" Penny would ask. Misato would go to the intercoms. "He was formerly known as Kenji Obatu. However, we believe he's been infected and will be the next one to awaken. He's been codenamed the Spectrum, the embodiment of the fifth angel, Ramiel, Angel of Thunder." Another awakening, Shinji would think. Maybe this was his chance to stop him. Before Penny had a chance to chime in on what they were going to do, Shinji would move in first, grabbing the multicolored man as he tried to stop him. Listen, you have to try to fight it. You don't have to let it take over. Shinji, what are you doing? Penny would yell towards him, but Misato would also yell through the intercoms. What was that boy thinking? They had to neutralize the threat, not try to make peace with it. Come on, you can fight it. You don't have to give in. I can't stop. I've seen it. We deserve to die. We deserve to die. Starting with you. The both of you. Spectrum would use the power of prism light, shooting off the multicolored energy beams at the both of them before turning his facets of light into powerful constructs, using them to rain down his terror onto the city. The civilians would evacuate and get out of the way, Shinji and Penny moving them to safety while attempting to fight him off. Shinji, Penny would look over to him. We have to take him down. Destroy the body, release the core. But won't that release the angel? That's the only way we can kill it. But we're going to kill him. It's too late for him. How do we know? We have to do something. Shinji! Misato? Shinji, I know what you're trying to do. It's noble. And please understand, we wouldn't ask you to do this if there wasn't any other way. But he's gone now. The only thing left is the enemy. If we don't stop him, it will be the end of humanity. But Shinji, you have to choose. What was he supposed to do? What could he do in that moment? Weighing the life of one person over everyone else? But Penny had already made the choice. Before Shinji even had a chance to stop her, she had already decided. She used the blade hidden within her armor, managing to get through his defenses. Shinji would attempt to restrain him from harming anyone else, and it gave the opening that she needed. A clear stab to the chest, and that was all that it took. The evacuation would continue as Spectrum would begin to transform, leaving his humanoid state and entering into the angel form of Ramiel, the diamond angel that stood hovering in the sky. Shinji, go over to District B2. We're sending up Ava Unit 1. Once you enter it, it will be your responsibility to take out the angel. Penny, move to the evacuation site and stand by. Understood. Shinji went racing as the Ava would begin to make its way, as he climbed up the side of its legs rather quickly before going to the entry plug as he hopped in. However, the moment he did so, the angel would begin to target. Oh no! He's gonna aim for that building! There are people still inside! Shinji, what are you doing? Don't worry, I got this! Shinji would move in as the angel shot its beam, Ava Unit 1 standing between the building and the people. What's he thinking? He should have just let the angel take its shot and then attacked it in its blind spot, Gendo would say. Shinji, get out of there! Wait, I can... Ah! Shinji would find himself feeling the pains of being shot through the chest as Ava Unit 1 was shot down by the angel. Everyone screaming for him through the intercoms as Ava Unit 1 went crashing to the ground. And for Shinji, he would black out in that moment. Not too long after, he found himself awakening in the hospital. So much had happened in the time that he had been knocked out. From what Nerve had been able to gather, the Angel's AT field was incredibly strong, with it having an immediate countermeasure. it would attack anything that attacked it first within a certain range and mileage. And it seemed like none of their regular weapons were capable of penetrating the AT field they had created. Their only chance was to create a high, dense shot, a sniper shot if you will, something with enough power and force to break through its defenses and destroy it before it had a chance to counter-strike. And they weren't going to have much time, seeing as how the Angel was now hovering over Nerve headquarters, drilling its way to the base that was hidden underground. For Misato and the others, they had to come up with a countermeasure that would be needed to defeat the Angel. In doing so, they were going to have to use a specially made weapon, known as the Positron Cannon. It was the only thing of note that had enough power and destructive force to smash through the Angel's AT field and defensive barrier, destroying it before it could have a chance to counter-strike. Of course, this large cannon of a weapon would have to be used by one of the Evangelion, and given how strong its defenses were, they may only have one shot to take it down. This would be known as Operation Yashima. The cannon would take power given to it from across all of Japan itself. It was going to result in a nationwide blackout for the night, but when the fate of humanity is at stake, you have to make do with what you have. With Shinji and Rei being the only ones with Evas at the moment, they would be in charge of the operation, with Penny being on the sidelines as a backup, since technically speaking, her Evangelion hadn't arrived. At best, Penny was a spare, worst case scenario if a pilot were lost in this encounter. Although, given how close in touch and go the situation was, it wasn't like they were going to get another shot if this mission didn't work. Shinji would awaken in the hospital not too long after, as Rei would prep him on the mission and what they were going to be doing. However, before she left, she would turn back to Shinji. Why? What? Why did you guard that building? It doesn't make logical sense. Had you let the Angel attack, you would have had an opening to take it down. Rei, if I had done that, those people would have died. But following and doing the mission, isn't that what's most important? Why would you think something like that? Because it's the most logical thing. It's what I would have done. Rei, do you even understand why we're doing this? Yes. We are the pilots of the Evangelion. We do what no one else can. That's not the point. I mean, seriously. Does anyone here truly know what we're fighting for? What do you mean, Ikari? Look, I get it. There's a logical way of doing things. Maybe the logical thing to do was just let the building be destroyed. But there's no guarantee that me doing so wouldn't have resulted in me being injured the way that I was. Based off of the dossier that you gave me, it's not like any attack that I could have landed close range would have worked anyway. But still, Rei, every life matters. At least to me. If I know that there's a chance that I can save someone, knowing that I have the power to do so, and I don't do anything, then really what good am I doing in the first place? There's no point in saving the world if there's no one left to live in it. The people we're trying to protect, the world we're trying to save, it matters just as much. I don't understand you, Ikari. Well, what about my father? From what I'm told, he rushed to save you, didn't he? Yes, he did. And where was the logic in that? He ended up hurting himself in the process. Yes, he did. Exactly. I mean, if we're being logical, wouldn't it have just made more sense just to leave you behind? I mean, it's not lost on me why I'm here, or why I'm a pilot, or why I was called when I was. I'm nothing more but a backup, and I know it. I know that compared to you, I'm nothing to him. And you know what? I made peace with that. I'm fine and I accept it. But the one thing I won't accept is just letting people die. Every life matters. No life is worthless. And I won't just let it go away in vain. Not if I have the power to do something. Ray, why do you even pilot? Why do you fight in the first place? She looked back to him. I do it because it is expected of me. And because in the end it is something that only I can do. I don't know what value of life means to you, Ikari. But know that your expectations and mine are completely different. I know what I am to Gendo Ikari, and I know my purpose in life. It's to serve as a pilot, and if necessary, to die as a pilot. You would really just throw away your life for him? Ray would turn back to Shinji, walking to his bed and slapping him in the face. If it is necessary, I will do so without hesitation. And with that, Ray would leave, leaving Shinji there to wonder, to truly think about things, and to prepare himself for what was to come. The equipment would be moved out into the night. The preparations for the upcoming confrontation, the first shot to a finish. Shinji was going to be the one taking the shot in Eva Unit 1, while Ray would be positioned in Eva Unit 0 holding a shield to protect him. As they readied themselves for the operation setting up on the mountaintop, Shinji looked over to Ray one last time. It was nothing but silence in that moment until Shinji heard one final message through the intercom. You will not die tonight. I promise. I will protect you. With that, the operation would soon commence. Shinji would take his position, readying the rifle as he prepared to take the strike. The moment he did so, the angel would counter with a strike of its own, the two beams of energy intertwining with one another before dissipating. Now that they had both fired their shots, it was time for the counter-strike. The angel was obviously going to shoot first, and for Shinji, he would have a cooldown of 15 seconds before he could take a second shot. Ray and Eva Unit 0 would get into the center, guarding Shinji from the attack. The shield they had made for this occasion was only good for 17 seconds. It would last just long enough for the cannon to be ready to fire again. All Shinji could do was wait in anticipation. Ray, even hiding behind the shield, could not fully protect herself from the pure energy that the angel presented. Eventually, Eva Unit 0 finding itself shot off in the distance, the shield flying away with it. Shinji didn't have time to worry though, as he had another clear opening and he took the strike, this time before the angel could have a chance to counter. The shot would land right through the pyramid-like being as it descended onto the ground before eventually self-destructing. To the people at Nerve headquarters, they celebrated and cheered in victory, seeing as how they had managed to avoid the worst-case scenario. However, Shinji would quickly exit out of Ava Unit 0 as he went moving as fast as he could towards where Rei had landed. Going to the emergency hatch, he found himself reaching for the latch door, fighting through the searing pain of the burns from the heat that was given off of the metal handles. He ripped it off of its frame before pulling Rei out, pulling off the red mask that mirrored his own. Rei, are you okay? Come on, say something. Ikari? Yeah, you're okay, I got you. But why? Your only priority should be it's all right. The angel's been defeated. But still, don't do these things, okay? Why are you crying? I'm just happy that no one died. I don't know what to say. It's all right. If you can't think of anything to say, then just try smiling. And don't say goodbye. It's just too sad. In that moment, as Rei looked upon the face of Shinji, she couldn't help but see the face of Gendo as well. The aura the two of them had, even if they could never admit it, was very similar. As she basked in his smile, she returned with a smile of her own as well. Penny and Masato would sigh in relief. The worst of the worst had finally been abated, and the angel had been defeated. Another victory for Nerve and for the pilots that served them, readying themselves and steeling their hearts. The battles would only intensify in the future. And before long, all of them would have their nerves tested. But if they could manage to stick together, and this team could manage to grow, then they might be what humanity needed in its fight for survival. This concludes Neon Genesis Evangelion, the Spire's Thesis. What if Shinji was Spider-Man? Part 2. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Also, if you haven't, make sure you check out our earlier uploads in the week so you can be caught up on all of the amazing stories in the Phase 2 of Anime X Marvel, the Spider-Verse Saga. And stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue Jujutsu Kaisen, The Spider's Curse. What if Miles Morales was Sukuna's vessel? Season 1, Part 2. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.